So thank you very much for joining Julia, Lydia and I as we discuss our experience of trying to master the fundamental skills in Toastmasters and how this has really become a part of our normal life. So evaluation and feeding back to others is a really important key skill, not only in Toastmasters, but in our everyday life. Everything you do in Toastmasters is evaluated and fed back from your individual speeches to how you performed in your role to the way the meeting has been run. So this means you're always learning and growing. The best thing about that is that you're often getting about 12 or 13 perspectives of what works and what doesn't. And so when everyone is feeding back the same thing, you know you have to stand up and listen to that. Learning these skills has enabled me to have the courage to take on more supervisory roles in work, as I felt more confident to deliver feedback in a sensitive, constructive manner. Julia, how has learning this skill in Toastmasters helped you in your own life?
It's probably the one area, Emma, that really surprised me about Toastmasters, and I find that it's an area that I really enjoy. And one of the key things that I've learned from this whole experience is that no one style works best for everyone. So when we receive and give feedback, I think that's something that or even giving feedback, I've realized that my feedback to someone is very different from perhaps others. And likewise, when I look at all of the feedback that I get after doing a speech, I realize, oh my goodness, it's so important to tailor your speech and your engagement with the audience to try and engage with everyone. And that's a skill that Toastmasters really focus on. There's a number of roles that you can do within Toastmasters that helps you to improve on being able to evaluate and to give very constructive feedback. We often hear that in order to be a good public speaker, you need to practice. And whilst that's important and certainly very true, there's more to just good communication than practicing all the time. And Toastmasters offers that opportunity for us all to gain an insight into our own style and to also then work alongside other members and to gain that and improve on how we can give feedback. So the whole area of evaluations I find really interesting, and it's something that Toastmasters has allowed me to really focus on and to improve on.
And has there been any benefits within the family home as well?
Yeah, well, I'm a mother of 3 children, 2 teenagers, and you can imagine that giving feedback that's unwanted most of the time can be really difficult. So yes, it has certainly allowed me to structure my feedback in perhaps in a way that I may not have done previously. So yeah, there are benefits beyond just getting up and delivering a speech.
Has that gone down well at home, or have they caught on to what you're doing?
Not so much yet. No, not so much yet. But equally, it allows me to encourage them and for them to recognize the importance of giving feedback, if it's to their friends and in school, and also how they give that feedback to me. So we've had some interesting conversations about it.
So you're coming across saying your kids is this very wise mum.
No, kids never look at their mum as being wise.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are, Julia. Lydia, have you learned any new skills from Toastmasters so far that have been helpful for your life in general?
Yeah, along the feedback lines that Julia was talking about, I honestly didn't expect feedback to be such a big part of Toastmasters, and giving feedback and also receiving it, I guess, as well, is a whole skill in and of itself. And it's so crucial to know how you come across to an audience. For example, the time that I did my icebreaker speech, I felt like my nerves were fully on a level 10, but the feedback that I got was, yes, some nerves came through, but they were maybe more on a level 4 or 5. So that was really useful to know that maybe that the audience can't actually see my knees knocking together with nerves. So things like that I found really useful. It's given me the confidence to know I'm not perfect at it, but at least I can give it a go. So yeah, that's what I found really, really useful about the feedback side.
So feedback can be good and it can be bad. I remember when I started giving my speeches, someone mentioned to me that I kept slapping my leg, almost like I was ready to go on a horse. So I have no idea what that was about. But once I was alerted to this, I stopped hitting my leg, and it was just a softly tap, but it clearly was a nervous thing. So have you guys been given any good or bad feedback? Because obviously we don't, apart from the your specific speech evaluation for when every individual feeds back to you, don't not everybody hears about it. So has there been any particularly good or bad feedback that you've maybe had from other people that you would like to share? Julia, if you want to go first.
Yes, I certainly have had lots of feedback, Emma, and I think I personally have benefited from the fact that prior to COVID, and we're now obviously doing all of our Toastmaster meetings on Zoom, but prior to that, we were in a room together. So the feedback when we were in the room compared to what we're getting now on the Zoom has varied. And I guess that's a real learning for us all, depending on your medium for communication. You need to pitch yourself in various ways. So going back to when we were in the room, I remember a wise old Toastmaster saying to me, you know, you need to raise your voice. You really need to hit the back of the room. So that is something I do try and remember now when I'm speaking to a crowd, that, you know, I need to lift my head. I tend to speak quietly anyhow, so I have to push myself to speak that a little bit louder. And also to remember to smile, because it's something that I find attractive in other speakers if they smile. And then I have to remind myself, and I personally have had that feedback. So it is something there, this little voice at the back of your head that has taken note of those sort of key feedback points that you try to remember every time that you're speaking, whether it's to people directly or whether it's via a camera. And then also one of the most recent pieces of feedback that I find interesting was if you're speaking on Zoom or on Skype or Teams and you're relying on hand gestures, make sure your hands can be seen. Okay, so above the screen level and not down here where it's all going on. So,
and that feedback is all really useful. So then you can hopefully adapt and change. It's sometimes very challenging, very difficult to smile when inside you're actually terrified. One of the bits of information someone gave to me, because I was really nervous before going on to speak when we were speaking, you know, in a room, I would clench and unclench my fists, and that would almost de-escalate me a little bit, so I didn't feel as tense. It would get all that tension out because I was squeezing so hard before and afterwards. So that really helped me. Lydia, have you received any good or bad feedback that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, along the lines of body language, I've definitely been told, and I was aware of it at the time, of the nervous hands. I do all this. It's just the nerves. And I also have got feedback about like audience engagement. I think naturally, like Julia, I would be more softly spoken and, you know, maybe head down and speaking quite a monotonous tone. So what I've learned through feedback and through also watching other really experienced Toastmasters is how important body language can be to engaging your audience. You know, there's some fantastic times I've seen people, you know, jumping around and they're using body language really intentionally, and you're just gripped watching them. But that's something that obviously will come with experience. So I guess the only time I've been disappointed with feedback was the time I did a speech and I felt like I brought loads of energy and I was using all these hand gestures and I felt like I was being really overly dramatic to the point of being cheesy. But the feedback that I got was it was still a bit like not high energy and a bit dull. I'm sure the feedback was correct and I don't argue with it. But yeah, it's all just a learning process, I suppose. You have to build. step by step with it.
Do you guys find as well? I know for me, when I'm watching other people and then they get feedback and someone says, "Oh, that was really good. You did that." I sit and write it all down and go, "Oh, I might use that the next time." Or if they're told, "Oh, maybe don't focus on that so much. That wasn't as good," I'll be like, "Oh, write that down." Now, that doesn't mean that I'll go away and apply it because that's a completely different story, but I at least make note of it. And even when you're watching TV, watching other speakers, like big speakers, like say for example Obama, you're taking note really of how they're presenting and what they're doing with their hands, what they're, what kind of tone of voice they're using. Do you find yourself doing that now as well?
Oh, definitely. Um, that's one of the real strengths of Toastmasters. The saying, you become the people that you surround yourself with. Well, Toastmasters gives you the opportunity to surround yourself with people that are better at public speaking than you are. And it's by watching and learning from them that you can really elevate your own skills in it as well, definitely.
The key skill that we develop in Toastmasters is an area of research and presenting. So often when I'm researching and preparing for a speech for Toastmasters, I will often write a lot down on paper. So what was originally about 3 pages of notes has to be condensed into small notes page to be able to produce about a 4 to 6 minute speech. And everyone has their own method of speech writing. However, I'm not going to lie, it's really challenging on occasions. So for most of us in our jobs, we have to research, then present our findings to accompany our team of people in a concise and direct manner. And sometimes the content of that speech isn't very exciting. I'm sure all of us have been in the situation where we've been told to go and present on a topic that is very dull, and people are going to find it boring, and that can be really challenging. Lydia, I know from watching you speak that this particular project on research and presenting, you found that you were really stretched in this project. Could you tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Yeah, definitely. So the advice that I'd heard before was two things. Firstly, talk about what you're passionate about, and secondly, talk about what you know. So doing a research project means you have to set that second one aside because you're forced to talk about something that you don't really know that much about. So it stretched me because I think when you're talking about a topic that you know quite broadly, if you get off a point in the middle of a speech, there's like a bit of a comfort buffer of information in your head that you can muddle through. Whereas if you only know a really narrow bit of information that you just researched last week or the week before, you really gotta stick to it. And as well, because it's not really cemented in your mind, I found that I didn't have as much confidence in what I was saying too, wondering is the audience maybe knows more about this subject than I do. Who am I to talk about something that I've only just learned about? So that's what I found really stretching about it, but it was definitely a useful experience either way.
It's really fascinating, Toastmasters, because obviously lots of people come from really different backgrounds as well. So you're often getting presentations that for example, how many fire alarms are needed in a building, or how a building needs to be clear, or what the exit routes are. I remember a really fantastic speech about something to do with the fire service in our club, and it was really interesting, fascinating, and it took me out of my own everyday life. And you mentioned earlier on, Lydia, that you felt that your life was dull. I find it fascinating because it's not my life, and I get to find out something else that isn't in my own little circle, especially at this time with everything that's going on. So, as you've heard, gaining feedback and applying this feedback to improve will only benefit you in your work and your personal life. And you never know, getting a well-researched and presented concise message across to your partner or your child may get you the results that you'd hope for. Next time, we will be discussing the project on learning your style and whether this will help you to be a more effective communicator and leader. Thank you very much.